Welcome everybody. My name is Gerard Farka and today we will talk about digital games and the aesthetics of play. We will thereby tackle more or less three aspects. First, games as art, whether video games are products of pure entertainment or something else. Second, game aesthetics and the dream of the holodeck, the dream of a virtual reality in games. And finally, the act of play itself and the effect that play has on us. So let us begin with a brief discussion about a function of games and the question whether games can be regarded as artwork. In a talk at the Swedish Game Awards Conference 2018, Ubisoft Massive COO Alf Candelius expressed that with The Division 2, the company refrains from making political claims and that the game is simply a product for entertainment. To give context to his precise statement, one has to be aware that The Division 2 is set in a post-apocalyptic Washington, D.C., where a virus outbreak has plunged the country into chaos. This virus is also known as the dollar pox, because it was distributed on Black Friday via infected dollar bills and it spread like a wildfire. In the meantime, the Capitol building is on fire and the situation has become so severe that the Mexican government has decided to build a wall to protect Mexico from streams of US refugees. Only small resistance groups, referred to as the Division, aim to restore order in the anarchy that prevails. Candelius claims, "It's a balance because we cannot be openly political in our games. So, for example, in The Division, it's a dystopian future and there's a lot of interpretations that it's something that we see the current society moving towards. But it's not. It's a fantasy. It's a universe and a world that were created for people to explore how to be a good person in a slowly decaying world. But people like to put politics into that, and we back away from those interpretations as much as we can because we don't want to take a stance in current politics. It's also bad for business, unfortunately, if you want the honest truth." Such a statement necessarily evokes discussion, given the state of the games industry in which developers, more often than not, feel responsible to cater to the tastes of certain gamer communities. This may be an attempt to avoid losing large groups of customers and satisfy the financial pressure of publishers, or to prevent outrageous outcries in forums, but it is also worth observing from a different, yet connected point of view. In recent history, game developers and academics alike have described video games as forms of art, as showing the potential to affect players emotionally and aesthetically by making them ponder life, culture, and societal developments, and in general, the many connections between the fictional game world and their empirical surroundings. To do so is to approach the video game medium's aesthetic function as an implicit but subversive commentary on contemporary issues and ways of life. And one cannot pose the question whether game developers, as artists they claim to be, assume a certain responsibility. Of course, this responsibility may be two-sided. On the one hand, to ensure the success of the product and secure their own working places, while on the other hand, it is the artist's desire to question, comment, and meticulously unveil societal wrongs, to destabilize the status quo in precarious times, and to suggest potential ways out of these dilemmas. So let us come to some study questions now. How do you perceive games? Are they products of entertainment, or do you consider them as art? What games do you know that would count as art and why? And finally, should games address political aspects of life critically? Let us move to part 2 then. In the early days of gaming, the dream of virtual reality was fueled by Star Trek's vision of a fully immersive game in virtual reality called the holodeck. The holodeck would give you access to completely immersive stories that would be as real as life itself and in which you could participate without having to fear repercussions to your life and safety. As Janet Murray puts it, the holodeck creates an illusory world that can be stopped, started, or turned off at will, but that looks and behaves like the actual world, and includes polyfiers, drinkable tea, and characters. Well, this, however, also raises some interesting questions about what is real and what is not. For example, that we believe that kissing a holodeck program or engaging in cybersex is an act of infidelity to a flesh and blood partner. Also, will the power of such a vividly realized fantasy world destroy a grip on the actual world, debilitating as a hallucinogenic drug? No doubt, the appropriate moisture and temperature of a kiss have been carefully calculated as the sensations produced by the feeling knob. So in conclusion then, the holodeck provides a safe space in which to confront disturbing feelings we would otherwise suppress. It allows us to recognize our most threatening fantasies without becoming paralyzed by them. Like a magical starship designed for safely exploring the distant squadrons of the galaxy, the holodeck is an optimistic technology for exploring inner life. Back in the days, the holodeck was a science fiction dream, but where are we today with such a technology? One example is the website theholodeck.com, which offers players various VR games to engage in. Here, people come together in big empty spaces and will immerse in a complete virtual reality. However, one that is still far from the original vision of the holodeck. The dream about a holodeck and current computer technology inspired Janet Murray to analyze the properties of the medium and its aesthetics of play. To Murray, digital environments are procedural, generated by computer algorithms and procedures for the user to explore. They are also participatory, enabling our interaction besides mere imagination. They are spatial, granting us a virtual space to explore. And finally, they are encyclopedic, foregrounding the computer's ability to store vast amounts of data and to make them available to its users. Engaging with software was thus basically different from reading a book or watching a film, what can be called non-participatory media, and this also holds true for the medium's aesthetics. These Janet Murray divides into three categories: immersion or presence, agency, and transformation. Immersion might be the concept we're most familiar with, when we read a book or watch a film and completely forget our surroundings, losing ourselves in the fictional world of the story. Immersion is a metaphorical term derived from the physical experience of being submerged in water. We seek the same feeling from a psychologically immersive experience that we do from a plunge in the ocean or a swimming pool. The sensation of being surrounded by a completely other reality, as different as water is from air, that takes over all of our attention, our whole perceptual apparatus. The second pleasure of participatory environments can be described as the agency to act within such a world. This can be as mundane as opening a Word file on your computer desktop, or becoming a hero by saving a fictional world from chaos and despair. When the things we do bring tangible results, we experience the second characteristic delight of electronic environments, the sense of agency. Agency is a satisfying power to take meaningful action and see the results of our decision and choices. Finally, when engaging with participatory environments and virtual characters, we find ourselves at the boundaries of what is real and what is fictional. This is also true for playing a certain character, when we, in many ways, are the character we are playing, and in many ways are not. The transformative power of the computer is particularly seductive in narrative environments. It makes us eager for masquerade, eager to pick up the joystick and become a cowboy or a space fighter. Enacted events have a transformative power that exceeds both narrated and conventionally dramatized events, because we assimilate them as personal experiences. Which brings us to some further study questions. How did you experience the three pleasures of play when playing games? Do you think immersion, agency, transformation can also be found in non-participatory media such as film, literature, theatre, and so on? And finally, how would you imagine a holodeck experience? Finally, let's conclude with how we experience the act of play. Fiction in general allows us to engage in roles we do not necessarily experience in our daily lives. When reading Moby Dick, for example, we will hunt down a white whale or explore faraway galaxies in Mass Effect. Fiction, then, proposes trial runs for approaches to what is, and this allows the reader to see everyday norms and conventions, social habits of thinking and feeling in a different light, and to explore in a kind of trial action in a virtual environment the consequences of breaking and transgressing norms without having to fear sanctions in real life. This is not dissimilar in play. As Miguel Sicart claims, play can disruptively reveal our conventions, assumptions, biases, and dislikes. In disrupting the normal state of affairs by being playful, we can go beyond fun when we appropriate a context with the intention of playing with and within it. Play, he continues, is finding expression, and it is also a creative force. Play is finding expression. It is letting us understand the world, and through that understanding, challenging the establishment, leading for knowledge, and creating new thoughts or breaking old ones. By disrupting the context in which it takes place, play is a creative, expressive force. The disruptiveness of play is used to shock, alarm, and challenge conventions. This, of course, is worthy of discussion, so let us close with some final study questions. How do you experience the act of play? And do you think it has subversive potential, or is it rather a simple form of entertainment? Thank you so much for your attention. As usual, these are the references I used and also the figure sources. See you next time.